First good contribution was for their desktop. I came in here and I back then I thought, yeah, I want this to be on my profile. Welcome to our today's Cloud Native Talk episode 8. And as you know, like we are with the Deans and everybody knows him on Twitter. So he's sort of active on Twitter and he talks about DevOps, Cloud Native, open source, and he's also the part of various programs. I would not take the names, he will take the names because it is good when he will introduce our audience because he has done many things, right? So we will talk about a lot of things. So let's not make your time waste or something. Let's introduce Dean. Yeah, Dean, you can go ahead. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me. I'm Dean Lofts. I'm an engineer for a company called Appwrite that is based out of Australia. We're part of a bigger company that's an American company that's sort of made up of a few different other small startups that were acquired by them. And we're just in the process of sort of growing into an enterprise at the moment. I'm also quite heavily involved in the open source communities. I've been involved with open source pretty much my whole life, more of a consumer rather than a contributor. I only started contributing in the last, say, 3 or 4 years properly. I also joined an open source community called Eddiehub. It's a really good open source community, and I've managed to become one of the brand ambassadors for Eddiehub. I find I really recommend that to people that are interested in open source or are new to the tech industry. It's really, really good for that. That also doesn't mean that it's just for that. There's plenty of us sort of older guys around and older girls and people as well. Like, we're very inclusive. There's quite a good code of conduct there, and everyone's really well behaved, welcoming and supportive. So yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it was really nice introduction about the open source, and like everybody is thinking about like how to get into the open source and what are the necessary resources and stuff. And Eddiehub is the one of the greatest resource for everyone if they want to get into the open source. It's nice job done by the Eddies out there. So yeah, it is really nice. So I would like to ask about your journey, like how you get into the open source, because previously open source was not that much known to the people. So how you get started? It's sort of got different stages. Like I got involved in open source when I was a kid because that was the only way I could get software because I didn't have much money. So it was either learn to use, like, I did the pirated thing for a little while, but that was only so good. And eventually I had to go the open source route. So I was very much on the consumer side for that part. But in the last few years, I've sort of switched and started contributing. I didn't really start working in tech officially until around 2010. And I started by doing desktop support. That was my introduction to the tech industry. So from there, I worked my way up to network engineering. I taught myself a lot of that and ended up getting the CCNA certification, also the CCNP eventually. And from there, I moved into systems administration and systems engineering, which eventually sort of evolved into DevOps. So I know a lot of people ask me sort of, how do I get started in DevOps? And it is kind of hard to answer in a way because a lot of what I know that's useful in DevOps came from the previous jobs that I had before. So a lot of the knowledge that I need now came from the work I did when I was looking after customers in desktop support. And one of the things I really focused on was I was a person that really fought for the customer. Like I really looked at our policies and what we had to do, and I would put every bit of effort that I could in to make sure that we got what we needed resolved for the customer. And I find that I've carried that with me into DevOps, but instead of my customers being the
typical sort of end user that it used to be. My customers are now the development team for our company. So it's kind of up to me to be the IT guy for our dev teams, be really flexible, know our code base well. And I know one of the guys in our team said this today, the best thing you can do for me is to be invisible and for our stuff to work. So that's really the ultimate goal of a good DevOps engineer. And that's how I ended up where I have today. That's a very sort of simplified version. It has been quite a bumpy road because there's no real sort of pathway to DevOps. But I've found that it did manage to cover everything I needed. Probably could have been a lot more friendly, but it's definitely a worthwhile journey.
Okay. So, yeah, it was really nice, and like your journey was really awesome. Like you started from scratch and you learned everything from your own, and open source was really big addition to your things, right? So, so when you started, so what resources? So if you want to start from the scratch now, what resources you will like to use, and as you think like it will be better, like you have been quickly grab the thing if you know these resources now, and what will be the actual path now if they want to start from the scratch?
Well, it's probably actually one of the most exciting times right now to get into it because you've got the sort of, I don't know if you've used it yet, but we've got things like ChatGPT, and OpenAI has just released GPT-4, and that's kind of changed the game overnight. Like, it's probably, outside of, say, being my age, there's probably no better time to be getting into tech than right now because it's just so much more accessible than it ever has been. So to me, that's the most exciting thing, is the advancements in, say, machine learning, opening up just so much that we haven't even thought of yet. But that aside, say that didn't exist and you had to get in, say, 3 or 4 years ago, I found GitHub to be really useful. At one of the jobs that I had, we didn't actually have proper access to GitHub. So I had to learn I used to search up just every single repository that had, say, more than 500 stars. And I would sort that by recently updated and just go and read through different code bases. And I had to use GitHub that way for, say, 2 years before I actually started coding. And I found that actually gave me a bit of an advantage because I know about things that I probably wouldn't have known about at that level. And it's sort of, it made for a really unique learning experience. And I think people look at what I do and it doesn't tend to be stuff that's covered by anyone else. And that's because I've learned things as I've wanted to, rather than following a structured sort of course or that sort of thing. The other reason it's sort of good to be starting now is that you've got access to all the communities, and they never really existed the way they do now. At least they weren't anywhere near as big as they were. They were nowhere near as moderated or welcoming. You've probably heard of some horror stories from the old Stack Overflow days, where if you ask any question even slightly wrong, then you would just get berated by whoever. And that doesn't happen in communities now, which is a good thing, I think. In one of my jobs, I know I was a bit underskilled for what I probably should have been, and my team at the time really wasn't as supportive as they should have been. And I know from that experience, I kind of will never do that to anyone else. And I know that it's so much easier for a new developer to actually be supported by their team than to just be thrown in and sort of left to their own. Because I joined Eddiehub in about 2022. I'd been studying, say, tech, and I'd been working in IT for about a decade. I reckon I learned more in 3 months at Eddiehub than I did that entire time studying by myself. Like that's how much of an advantage these communities really are.
Agreed. So to summarize everything, like if anyone wants to start open source from the scratch, so you will not recommend to go with the structured path or something. But
No, I do. It's probably the main point would be that there's no one journey that's
yeah,
like
right.
there's nothing wrong with the path that I took, but
Yeah,
I've met plenty of great developers that have come from that structured path. So that shows that it all really works. So I think the best thing you could take from it is to find out or figure out for yourself which way is best for me and which way I'm
got
to
it.
learn best. Because
Yeah,
I think
and
if I tried to do the structured path thing, I don't think I would have went too well. Whereas, say, my personality is more suited for this, learn what you've got to need or what you want to learn at the time. That's something that I can really thrive in, but not everyone will do that the same way that I do. So it's finding your learning styles, what works for you, find people that you fit in with and you get along with. One of the key points with Eddiehub is that shortly after joining that community, I really knew what was the right community because I just got along with everyone. I didn't even have to try to fit in at Eddiehub, but I just fit in from the get-go. And that made a huge difference as well. So make sure they're people you have similar interests with. They don't have to be your best friends, but if you get along with them, it's surely going to help.
yeah, I mean, it is like go get into the open source and get your hands dirty. It is the best path. And ask the doubts in the community for the sure, because that is only the
I should say actually, it's the a big point is just get started in any way you can really, because once you're started, you iterate so quickly from there. You can't iterate on anything if you've never started. But if you look back on some startups, you'll see a few failed companies where they've gone out, they'll get a huge amount of funding and then they'll be building from there. And that tends to fail quite a lot. Whereas if I'm already building, then I'm way ahead because I know say I've got my first few customers, they'll be giving me feedback and telling me what they want me to build. I'm never going to know that if I don't have users. So you're already ahead of the game if you've got something out there that works, that's at least good at what it's supposed to be doing, and you've got someone actually using it. That's where you want to get to.
got it. So for open source, I guess GitHub is like one of the most useful tool or project we can say. Like there are various projects inside the GitHub, right? So when people use it, so what are like there are various things and they get like confused like where to start. They should go with the good first issues, or they should go with this project or this project, which will be suitable. And then next thing is like if they get on to this GitHub projects also, then after checking that the issues readme, they also get another confusion. Like what I can do here? It is already there. Everything is there. Where I can make changes?
And that's the beauty and the chaos of GitHub in a way, is that there's no real right answer. Like any and all of these options can work, because it's not so much about getting contributions. Like I could have thousands and thousands of contributions, but if no one remembers who I am or what I did, it doesn't really matter. So it's more about making the right contributions. Say good first issues, that's a good first issue for me to benefit. Like most of the projects that have good first issues, they're labeled as that because it's not a huge issue and it is something that they can afford to be flexible with. So they're willing to let just anyone do whatever they want with that because they know that they expect someone that's new. So they expect someone to be making mistakes and they will probably be there to help them. When you read a repository sort of information, usually you can gather what they want from there. like you'll see the contributing guides and the code of conducts, and they will generally tell you like a big difference you'll see is in my projects, I don't mind if someone, say, looks at an issue and just comes up with a PR and sends it in. I would receive that and I'd be quite happy about that. But there are other projects out there where it's very clear that they don't want PRs unless there's a clear issue raised for that PR, and they'll want someone assigned to it before any work's done. So you've got to sort of take note and work out which projects are going to want what style of involvement. Take a look at some of their previous issues and PRs and be like, are they friendly to beginners? If you see a beginner put in an issue or something and they get a negative comment, it's like, hold on, do I really want to be on this sort of project? And that's where you'll see a good project like Eddiehub's LinkFree. That's a project that's sort of designed for people to be able to contribute to early on. So if you work on that project, if you make a mistake, you're going to be fine because we're going to be nice to you, if that makes sense. So just right projects and right contributions. It's impossible to know which is the right and wrong one, but your best bet is to just get in there and do it, because the longer you spend not doing this stuff, that's time you could have been spending working on issues or PRs. And to me, I'd rather work on a PR that gets rejected than do nothing, because at least you something.
Got it. So it is like we have this Cloud19 talks, right? So people are more interested towards like how they can get into the cloud native contribution or DevOps contribution. So if you would like to do first your contribution of your cloud native, how you will do? So can you show something, or like can you guide or something?
Actually, I'll share my screen. Hold on.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just asked my kid to do something. My dog wants to go out and I don't really want to interrupt. All right, so entire screen. Sweet. So what I did is I sort of had a bit more of a plan when I was looking for my first contributions. My aim was to get brands that I recognized and I wanted to work with. So my first one was actually StreamYard. We're in Stream. Streamlabs, that's right. That's not it. So the dash. This was because if I go for a job and Streamlabs is on my resume, then the person hiring will probably know what this is, and they'll be like, hey, this is cool. So I was just browsing through GitHub and I noticed this Node.js thing here. This didn't say latest LTS when I first came here. It had a specific version, and I noticed it was out of date. So my contribution was easy because I just had to update to the current LTS. I actually let another year pass before I let a year pass, and then I noticed it was outdated again. And I was like, no one else has gone. So I went and made the other one that changed it to use the latest LTS instead of a specific version, which is probably a bad thing because it means no one else can do the same contribution as me. But that's just an example of what I did. So I found a brand that I wanted to be associated with, and I just did whatever I could to get it on.
Nice.
And you can use that for anything, really.
Nice. So it is like pick whatever suits you and directly go into the same.
Yep.
Got it.
And so the best thing about that one is that it didn't have to be Streamlabs. Like that could have been any project. Like as long as it was, say, as big or important as Streamlabs. Like that was the only thing that I considered back then. And it was really effective too. It meant that when I was in an interview for a job, that I had something to talk about. Because I don't know if you've done many technical interviews before, but it's always good to be talking to the people that are interviewing you, so you can sort of gauge if you're doing well. So you can ask questions and that sort of thing. And I use that as a bit of a conversation filler. It's like, hey, interview. Yeah, I contributed to Streamlabs, and we're sort of using Streamlabs, or anything that can initiate a conversation, really, or just whatever you can use to make them remember you. Because if they're interviewing, say, 20 candidates, after those interviews, how are they going to know that it was you that stood out? If they remember, hey, there was that guy that contributed to Streamlabs, we remember him. If that's the difference between you and the other candidates, you're the one that's going to get the job.
Yeah, nice. So, yeah, as you have seen, like our audience, our audience has seen you contributing to their audience and stuff. But there is another ways also. Like if you see, like there are a lot of people who are like Michael, who is doing in 90 days of DevOps, and there who are making the small DevOps community where you can share the resources and it will be directly reflected to DevOps community.in. So such type of GitHub projects also exist. So if you don't want to go into deep dive into the coding and stuff, you can simply do start with this kind of a contribution. So it is like if you have the resource, if you have the right resource of something and it can help the people, that is one source, one kind of open source contribution for you. Like you help the people, right? So you can do that stuff also. So don't be scared at the start. Like just start. You just have to start.
Something cool I've been doing recently, and this is a good example because it shows there really are there's no rules to this. We can do whatever we want, really. I met someone on Twitter that we became really sort of close friends over time. I found we have quite a lot in common. We get along, and we really work well together. So I've sort of just been chatting with this person every day and helping them learn. And they've learned so much so quickly and I've been able to help them do open source contributions. And it won't be long before they're able to do the same thing as me. So we've just gone and done that. Like there's no official path to any of that. And that's because that person found me and we naturally worked out that this was what we wanted to do. There's no set program that's going to introduce you to the right people. It's up to everyone to find them for themselves, really.
Yeah, so I would like to also add to this point. Like most of you from the audience, like ask me, like, can you guide us? Can you mentor us from the scratch or something? Actually, we don't have the time for the same, right? I'm caught up with yeah, I'm caught up with various things. Yeah, so there are such peoples like Dean and various people are there who are contributing to the open source. There are nice projects you can learn from there, or you can ask them directly. So for that also, one cool thing will be don't reach out to them on the profiles where they are already active too much. Like they have like 40,000, 50,000 followers. They will get multiple DMs, right? So how they can manage?
Like, unless it's sensitive, do it in public because then, because I don't officially mentor anyone, but if it's in public, you get mentored by everyone at once. Like I don't have to mentor one individual. I can do it to everyone all at the same time, because if someone's asked a question in public, that means that everyone can see the answer to that question in public. And it means that our DMs aren't filled with the same question over and over and over again. Because no matter how many times we say this in a video, I guarantee I will get up tomorrow morning and I will have at least 10 of the same message in my inbox. And it shows that these 10 people have not listened. And I try to be nice to everyone. But if you're one of those 10 people, you are never going to work with me, ever. Just because you have not Googled anything. Like, if I go to Google right now and I say how to go into open source, within the first 10 to 20 links, I'm going to see that advice. So don't do that to people. And it's not because they don't want to talk to you. It's just because you're going to be just an extra number asking that exact same question that has already been asked 100,000 times before. That's the biggest one. And the other thing with that is it indicates that the person doing it isn't someone that researches or plans ahead. Because if they had researched and planned ahead, they would know not to do that.
Right, right. So, for going into the same, you have done like some of the exceptional things in your life, right? And you are guiding the people on the same also, right? So if someone wants to learn this cloud native and DevOps, and so there are various resources on the YouTube and Twitter and various that. One of the famous resources, CNCF website, it has like various projects and stuff. So, what are your thoughts on the same, like to learning on the same, contributing to the same, and other thing is like how to reach out to the folks who are asking the doubts community and the same, because that is one of the coolest.
It's a good one. So, like all of these projects are awesome. We'll use Cloud Native as an example. Say I was new to open source and I wanted to get involved with this CNCF. That was my dream. That's my goal. Do you know what I'm doing? I'm going on LinkedIn and I'm finding who is involved with CNCF. I'm researching who the people are. Then I can start following them on social media, getting a feel for, is this project going to be right for me? Do my values align with the same sort of values as these people? And if so, then I can follow them on social media. And I do not reach out to these people until at least 1 to 3 months after this. Because I'm interacting with these people in public before I DM anyone. Because anyone that I'm going to DM, not only am I going to be fully prepared in that DM so that all of the information they need is in that message, they're going to know who I am before I DM. So, for example, when you DM me about this talk, I already knew who you were. Like, we didn't have to talk in private for me to know who you were, because your work is good enough that it's already shown up in my feed. I see that you interact with the same people as me. So already in my head, I know that you're legitimate about all of this without having to think about anything else. And that's how you deal with people, really.
Thank you, thank you. It is really awesome points. I do the same only. So everyone who has known in this world about how to interact with someone, how to learn in public or how to build in public, they knows like whom to interact, and it is not like you will directly hop onto the DMs and ask them, "Hi, how are you?"
And
That will not.
there's plenty of stuff like DM is really important because there is sensitive and private information that we do eventually need to share. But we've already spoken in public way before this happens. So most of my DMs aren't unexpected. Like, I'm expecting someone to message, or if I see them, it's like from someone that I would expect to be in there. It's when you get like a new name or a new face, it's like, hold on a sec, what's this? Like, my sort of default response to that is, this is a scam, or this is a bot, or that's what I think in my head.
Agreed, agreed. So nowadays we get lot of scammers, dollar signs, Bitcoin.
Be careful, because I never had much of an audience until quite recently, and I've just been in the habit of, sometimes if I get one of these bot messages, that I would just be really sort of horrible in a response, or just say random in a response. But I had one and it turned out to be a real person, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I would never ever say that to a real person. Luckily it was someone that found it amusing anyway. So
So like, yeah, it happens. It is part of life. Yeah, so moving forward, so yeah, you would like to share something with the audience as we have covered various things. And if you would like to share about your idea of ambassadors stuff or like cloud stuff and DevOps
Yeah.
stuff, or you
Right.
would like to show something about LinkFree or something, people would love to see that. Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do this. I I apologize to Bilal if no one's meant to see this yet. But
Sure.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So, well, this is just on WordPress at the moment. You can probably tell from all this stuff, but we're building a prototype for a new open source project we're working on. This is actually Bilal's idea, and I'm doing everything I can to support him. But we're sort of working on this new project called Book Loop, and yeah, as you can see, it's sort of, I don't know if you've heard of Lean Pub support before, but it's sort of, it feels quite inspired by Lean Pub in a way. And it's sort of a way where authors can have an always up to date book. Um, it's sort of evolved from a project that I had, which is Linux for Pirates. I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but this is a project that I started. And it's the first project that I had that really sort of started taking off. And Book Loop is kind of the progression of that. And this book that I started writing on my own, which is now a community project, will be then under Book Loop. And eventually we hope to have so many of these different books that'll always be up to date. And this will be part of, say, a subscription model. So yeah, we've been working on this over, say, about a month now, I think.
It is a really nice project. Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually, with most of the work's been on the Discord community, which of course I showed you the landing page that we've hardly done any work on. So yeah, if you do Google this, we've got a Discord community that we eventually plan to use for our main communication area. You can join it now, but it's still very early days, so expect it to be quiet for a little bit. We're still, so we don't need any resources to do any of the work, but we are fundraising for resources at the moment for things that are more nice to have. Because yeah, the person that I'm working with mostly, I have a MacBook Pro M1, and he's got a old ThinkPad basically, and it's like, why does he have to work on that when I have this? So let's try and get him a nice laptop, because I'm certainly putting in the work to justify it.
Yeah, like everything is for community. So yeah, well, like our audience and community will be really love to help you. Yeah, if you would like to contribute some amount, you can go and check it out with Dean, and he would surely love to have you as a sponsor or something, GitHub sponsor, or whatever you would prefer. So go ahead with the same. I vouch for this guy. He's like done awesome work. So
To be honest, I would put all the money in myself, but I over the pandemic, I actually lost basically everything I had. My marriage broke down, or engagement broke down, so I ended up separating from my partner. I couldn't afford to live in my house, so I had to move into state. So I got really down to bare bones. So usually I'd have decent money to just throw at stuff, but I can't afford to just buy a laptop at the moment. I wish I could, but I can't.
yeah, still like I have seen on Twitter, like you are sponsoring people on GitHub and stuff. So it is nice. You are a nice guy.
No, that's well. I wouldn't usually ask for stuff like that, but I think it is justified.
Yeah,
You can
thank you for whatever you are doing. Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. So
You go through my history if you're not quite sure, and you'll see I've probably never asked for money ever before in time. So
yeah, it happens. It is part of life. Like and like if don't worry about these things. Like every time we go, it is not like that. And you are doing the stuff which is like I guess only few in this world that are doing about and for the free to the community, it is like rare stuff. So It is very nice.
It's kind of cool because recently, like I've been right into it more than I ever have recently. And it feels like it's just your purpose to do it. Like I've never had before where I really feel like I'm just supposed to do something. Like that's not a feeling I've ever had before anywhere. And I just have that recently with open source, and I'm gonna write it.
Nice, nice. So yeah, you shared various resources and you showed nice demos with our audience. So thankful for that, and community will love for this. And let's thank for the future. I will love to host you again for the some project or some talk or demo. So
Well, yeah, we'll have to follow up about Book Loop and see how it's going in a couple of months or so.
Sure. Yeah. So if you want to ask any doubts or something, you can ask in the comments. Dean and I will be there solving your doubts, or if you want to ask about open source, cloud native, DevOps, whatever, go forward and do it. We will love to answer you. So if you like this talk and it is helpful to you in some way, do check it out and subscribe for the same. I asked for the subscribe, but yeah, you can go ahead for the same. So thank you for having today's talk, and yeah, it will be really nice to like.